Hey guys, it's me, Parker, and since it is February, and this is my February video, since I'm posting once every month, this is something a little bit different than what I normally do. This is a story time, and like I said, since it is February, we're doing a story time about the worst date I ever had in my entire life. This one's a little bit crazy. I have crazier stories, so if you guys want to hear those, definitely let me know. But I thought that this one was appropriate to tell since this is my February video. If this is your first time seeing me, hi, I'm Parker. Subscribe maybe? If you like this video, subscribe, possibly. Like it. I make a lot of different content, and I thought the story time would be good since I have a lot of interesting stories. I think this one is a good one to start off with. So get yourself some water. This is not a Stanley, by the way. This came from like Walmart. I think you can also buy Stanleys at Walmart, but this is not one. Get yourself some water or a snack or something. Just, chill with me while I tell you the story. And grab you a little guy. I don't want this little guy. But let's get into it. I have some notes written down on my laptop here, so I will be checking in with my sources. This was my worst date ever. Now, I haven't been on very many dates in my life, but this was my first actual fancy date. We were going to this really fancy restaurant. I'm not gonna tell you what restaurant it was, since it is a family-owned restaurant in my area. And if I told you that would be doxing myself. Before I begin, though, I just want to say, if you somehow figure out who I'm talking about, number one, that's creepy as fuck. How did you do that? Number two, do not go and harass anybody or because when this happened, we were minors. We were children, okay? Children make stupid choices, stupid decisions, and they do stupid things, okay? I don't know if he's the same way now as he was then, but the story took place when we were kids. Alright, I think I was 14, 15, and he was 17 at the time. So, just to clarify, do not find anybody I'm talking about. Do not harass anybody. So, I haven't been on very many dates in my life, and this was my first ever fancy date. We were going to a nice fancy restaurant. We were going to dress up. We were having a nice date because it was Valentine's Day.
Oh la la.
Because Valentine's Day fell on a Sunday this year, I think it was. And we went to church around this time. I was going to church every Sunday, every Wednesday. So we decided to go the day before Valentine's Day, since it was a Saturday. Now backtrack. I've been dating this dude for a couple of months now. We'd actually met at a summer camp. A few years prior. I think it was 2 years before this. We met at summer camp, and we were in the same friend group and everything. We had a mutual friend or two, and we never actually talked face to face. But at summer camp, we had this thing called the walk, and it happened at the very last day of camp. All of these senior campers, so anybody in high school, would go on this thing at midnight, and it was planned by the actual camp itself, so it wasn't something that we just did. But all the high schoolers would get together, and we would all go on a walk, from the sports field all the way to the entrance of the camp. So it was about a 2-mile walk, and at the very end of the walk we would get watermelon, and we would all sit down, we all talk, we would sing, whatever. But it was a tradition for years at this point that if you had a crush on anybody at the camp but you were too shy to talk to them up until this point, you would ask them to go on the walk with you. Okay, so this dude I had a crush on. I had not really talked to him one-on-one. We had said a few words back and forth, but not really talked. So on the last day of camp, I asked him. I said, "Hey, I know I know that we don't really know each other that well, but would you be willing to go on the walk with me?" Okay, so the point of that would obviously be to like get to know each other better, since that was why people asked each other on the walk, was to get to know them better on the last day of camp, since it was like a 2-mile walk. So like the walk would last a few hours, since it was a leisurely walk. It wasn't like a speed walk, 2 miles. It was a leisurely walk at midnight, and normally we would not get back until like 5 in the morning. So I asked him if he would go on the walk with me, and he immediately ripped me apart. He said, "I don't even know you. I do not want to go on the walk with you." The entire point of the walk, the entire tradition, was to ask somebody that you had been too shy to talk to the entire length of the camp, and then go on a walk with them. Well, he shut me down, and I was baffled. I tucked my tail between my legs, and I skedaddled. I was embarrassed. So, fast forward 2-3 years, and we actually had been going to the same church after this like entire thing that went down. My grandparents and we all moved to a different church, and it happened to be the same church that this dude went to, and so it was just really awkward. We never really talked, obviously, but then at this church, all of the youth group had a group chat, which means everybody had each other's number. And this dude, 2 years after this incident, he finds my number through this group chat and messages me, and he's like, "Hey." So I know that it's been like 2-3 years, but I wanted to apologize for how I went about that, and I want to talk to you and see if maybe we could like try that again. You know, this is the point where I should have been like, I don't even know you. Why are you messaging me? Because I feel like that would have been fucking epic and saved me a lot of trouble, but I did not do that. And this is why this all goes down. I actually have a lot of stories about this guy, but we're going to save those for another time. This one is just about this date, because it is insane. Actually insane. So this dude asked me out on a date. And, you know, the first date we had goes fairly decent. And then we go on a few more and we start dating. But then he ends up asking me on a fancy date for Valentine's Day, like I've said. And this was like a fancy restaurant. Definitely fancier than any restaurant I'd ever been to. It was kind of like Olive Garden. And like, to me, that was fancy. Since it was like a fancier restaurant, I wanted to look nice. So, before the date, I had to go out and buy a nice dress because I grew up not very wealthy. Definitely under middle class. Possibly just at like the edge of middle class. So I had to go out and buy a nice dress. We went to Belk, I think. And they had their like homecoming dresses on sale. So I got one of those. It was like this like really pretty green color. I have a picture of it. We'll get to that. It was just like really nice green color. It was really pretty. And then I realized I didn't have any shoes to wear with this dress, because all I wore at this point in time were Converse. I didn't have any nice shoes, so we went to Shoe Carnival, and I got myself a pair of like small heels. I don't know what you would call them. Like they were like that tall, possibly that tall. And I don't know how to curl my own hair. I did know how to curl my own hair. I still have no idea how to curl my own hair. I've tried. My hair just doesn't want to work with me. So I went to a hair place, and I got them to curl my hair for me, and I looked really cute. I have a picture. I'll insert it here of what I looked like for the date. And then I had like this leather jacket. I had a leather jacket over it all because it was February and it was cold as balls. I was freezing. The night before, now this part is important. I want you to remember this part. The night before, I had asked him about the prices of stuff, and I looked up the menu online, whatever, and I was kind of like thinking, you know, about like what I wanted to order and how much it would cost. And the menu online did not have prices. It just had like what all they had. It didn't have any prices. And he had been to this restaurant several times before. And he kind of like knew the menu, knew the prices. So I was asking him, I was like, hey, could you tell me like about the average price of things here? And he was like, it doesn't matter. And I was like, it kind of does, because I need to know how much money I should bring. And he was like, no. You're not going to bring any money. You're not going to bring your wallet. Like, I'm going to pay for it all. Do not even bring it. If you bring it, I will get mad. And like, this went on for like several minutes. I want to say about 20 minutes. And I was like, no. You know, this is a fancy restaurant. You know, if it's too expensive, you know, I want to pay for my own. You know, I'd feel bad. Blah 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 blah. And he just kept being like, no, don't bring your wallet. If you bring it, I will get mad. Like, he said multiple times that if I brought my wallet, he would get angry. And I was like, haha, whatever. He wouldn't actually, but you know, I finally gave in, and I did not bring my wallet. So I did not bring my wallet. I didn't have any pockets anyways. My phone was like taking up an entire pocket on my leather jacket. I was cold as balls, but I thought I looked cute, you know? I looked nice, and I was excited for this date. So my Nana drops me off at his house. He did not pick me up. My Nana drops me off at his house, and from his house he takes me to this restaurant, even though my house was closer to the restaurant. We had to drive to his house, and then from his house to the restaurant. So here's the restaurant, here's my house, here's my house, and then here's his house. So we went from here to here to here. Make it make sense. Anyways, so finally getting into like the juicy part. I apologize if I'm yapping too much and not getting to the point. I personally, when people tell stories, I love hearing every single detail, so it feels like I was there as well. So my stories will be like that. You will get every single detail, no matter how little it is. So I completely forgot to say that the night before, when we were arguing about me bringing my wallet or not, he said, and I quote, this was his word for word, "It will hurt my masculinity if you even think about bringing your wallet." I'm sorry, but if your masculinity is that fragile, maybe work on yourself before getting into a relationship or asking somebody out on a date. Because somebody bringing their wallet to a date should not hurt your masculinity that much. Anyways, we finally get to the restaurant and we get seated, and since it's Valentine's Day and people are there with their partners and have dates and stuff, the lights are very dim, there's hearts everywhere, it's super decorated, it's super nice, there's live music, and it's like super romantic. At least in my 16-year-old mind, 15-year-old, whatever, mind, it was like so romantic. So at this restaurant, I don't know if a lot of restaurants have this. I have never been to one other than this restaurant that had this, but this one piece of hair like will not stay out of my face. I don't know if very many restaurants have this, but this one did. They brought out some bread, obviously. A lot of restaurants have bread they bring out. But this restaurant also had like this like little bowl of like herbs and oil and stuff that you dip the bread in, I'm assuming. And this is where it gets weird. This dude grabs the bowl, pulls it over to us. So we're sitting at this like booth, like across from each other, and the bread is here, the oil and herbs are here too. So he grabs the oil, or like the whole thing of oil and herbs, pulls it to himself, and I cannot make this shit up. He sticks his finger into a little bowl of oil and herbs, smells it, sticks his fingers into his mouth, and like,
oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass on.
Even now, I'm like, what the actual hell was that? That is fucking insane. Okay, I kid you not, he sticks his fingers back into the bowl. So I'm like, nope, not eating out of that. So even if I were going to eat the stuff after he stuck his fingers in there, I definitely was not. After he licked his fingers, put his fingers back into the bowl. Like, I'd only been dating this dude for like a month or so at this point in time, and like, we were not that close. So, I'm not kidding when I say this. I'm not joking. He sticks his fingers back into the thing, pulls them out, reaches over to me and says, "Here, you want some? You want some?" No, I don't want some. What the fuck? And I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe he's just nervous. So I let it slide, as if sticking your fingers into a bowl of oil and herbs and then licking them clean, sticking them back into the bowl, and then asking your date if they want to lick some off your fingers is you being nervous. But I was little. I was a kid, you know. And I was like shy at this point in time. I had not yet become the person I am today. So I brushed it off. I was like, you know what? That's alright. He's nervous. We can look past it. And so we did. We looked past it. And that was on me. So the waiter comes to take our order, and you know, I already know what I want because like the night before I looked at the menu, and like my favorite food ever is chicken Alfredo. And they had a chicken Alfredo on the menu. And I really wanted chicken Alfredo. Like, I had mentioned it to the guy the night before that I wanted chicken Alfredo. And I start talking to the waiter because I want to order mine first because I get really anxious and I want to like get mine out of the way, you know? So I start talking, and let's call him Edward, the guy I'm on the date with, since we have not named him yet. His name is Edward. It's not Edward, but we're gonna call him Edward. So Edward interrupts me, and he's like, no. I got you. So he interrupts me, and he's like, so I want a small order of Alfredo. Just plain Alfredo. Just like the noodles and the sauce. No chicken. Which, I mean, okay, you know, it shouldn't be that bad. I do enjoy the Alfredo, but the chicken Alfredo is like banging. Like, hello. So he's like, okay, one small order of Alfredo, and the waiter turns back to me and is like, and you? And Edward's like, no, that's for us to share. And the waiter just kind of like looks at us, like me, and he's like, oh, like I can see on his face. I can see on his face. He's like, oh, girl. Like, we make eye contact, and I can just tell. He's like, oh. I'm like, all right, you know, because like maybe it was expensive for like a small order of just plain Alfredo. So he wanted to get us one to share since he was paying. But then, like, I was also like, you know, if it was expensive and you were worried about the price, I could have just bought my own wallet, like I thought about doing, you know? I could have, like, bought my own food. But anyways, I let it slide again. And that's on me. This is gonna be a pattern. But he, like, practically begged me not to bring my wallet, and then he orders us a size small plain Alfredo to share. At this point, he's like basically already touched all of the bread, stuck his fingers into the herbs and oil, and I'm starving because I had not eaten, and this was like lunchtime-ish, I think it was. Like, I was freezing, I was starving, and I was not about to eat the bread that he like put his fingers all over. I was not about to like use the like herbs and oil because he like did his fingers into them. So I was excited for my half of the plain Alfredo. So the waiter brings our like little plate of Alfredo out, and when I say this plate was measly, like it was a child's portion of chicken, or not chicken Alfredo, regular Alfredo. A child's portion, because the size small. You could only find it on the children's menu. I did not know he'd ordered off the children's menu. So this guy brings out this tiny bowl of chicken Alfredo with 2 forks stuck into it, and I'm so embarrassed at this point because I mean, like, I get wanting to share food because I've shared food with people before. Like a few months ago, me and Roman went out with their family and stuff for Christmas dinner, I think it was, to Longhorns, and we ended up getting a like brownie thing to share because it was so big and expensive. So like I understand wanting to share food, like I get that. But when it's a child's portion of plain Alfredo, and I offered to bring my wallet and pay for my food, and you beg me not to, and then that's when it's like, oh. So that's kind of weird. So I kind of like grab my fork and start like kind of picking at the Alfredo, and I eat maybe 3 noodles, and this dude is devouring the plate. I mean, like, he's like vacuuming it up. Like, he's eating like he hasn't ate his entire life. So I get 3 noodles in, whatever. When I finish eating, the waiter brings up the bill. And this fancy dinner was Edward's Valentine's Day gift to me. And this dude stuck his fingers into the oil and herbs, I say again, touched all the bread, so I ate none of that. This dude eats all of the chicken Alfredo, the children's portion of chicken Alfredo. I get 3 noodles, and then it ends up being $7. $7. Because we got waters, free waters, and a children's portion of regular Alfredo. $7. This dude had a job, but he could not spare $7 for a fancy Valentine's date for his girlfriend. He asked me out on the date. He could not spend more than $7 at this fancy restaurant. I don't give a fuck about how much you spend on something for me. Like, honestly, like, I love handmade things. I think they're better than like, store-bought things. Like, if you spend nothing at all, we are cool. But when you spend so long hyping up a restaurant and like talking about how fancy it is and how expensive it is and how like you don't want me to pay for anything, blah blah blah. After that, for like so long, you expect more than $7. Plus, he like ate everything. I got like 3 noodles and a cup of water out of the entire date so far. So we both are looking at the bill and kind of like deciding how much to like leave as a tip. And he decides on like $3 to $5, so something like that for the tip, since you know our food was only $7. But like we still wanted to leave like a decent tip, so he left like $3 to $5. Can't remember exactly how much, but our food ends up being $10 after tip. So I think it was closer to like $3. And this dude takes out his wallet, puts out a $5 bill, which like isn't even enough to like cover the Alfredo itself. And I just kind of look at him like, it's $10. And he's like, yeah, this is my half. And I'm like, what do you mean this is your half? He's like, I pay $5, you pay the other $5. Keep in mind. Number 1, this was his gift to me. Number 2, he begs me not to bring my wallet. It was a huge thing. So I couldn't tell him, I'm like, hey, you told me not to bring my wallet. I did not bring my wallet. I do not have the money to pay for my half. So he looks at me like I'm the dumbest person in the entire world. And he gets like so angry. And I'm just like, what do I do? You know, what do I do in this situation? This dude starts basically yelling at me in front of this entire restaurant. And I'm so embarrassed at this point. I'm like shrinking into my seat, just like trying to like disappear. And he just like yells at me. He's like, you're so stupid. Like, of course women are like this. You know, all women want to like leech off of their boyfriends. Blah, 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 you know? Like, it was a mess. So, finally, he's like, ugh, fine, I guess I'll pay for your half too. Puts down another $5, and we leave the restaurant. I'm embarrassed. Like, I am just like looking at my feet as we walk out. I feel like throwing up. I'm so embarrassed. And I just like I feel so bad too, because like I knew deep down that I should have brought my wallet, but like it's not my fault. I know now that like it's not my fault. Like, that's insane. So I put my leather jacket back on, and we end up going back out to his car, which is parked in the parking garage, which is a little bit away. And as we're walking back to the parking garage, like, I'm freezing because it is like mid-February, or like the beginning of February, and I'm freezing. And my leather jacket really isn't helping because it's like a cropped leather jacket. And my dress is like fairly short, and I'm wearing heels, and I'm just freezing. And this dude is like speed walking ahead of me. My feet are hurting because I've never really worn heels before this. Like, I wore them to like a few like middle school dances, but I had not worn them for like this long before. So this dude was like speed walking ahead of me, and I was like hurting. I was freezing. Like, I could not walk very fast, and this dude was like huffing and puffing, like arms crossed, like scowl on his face, like grown toddler is what is like the vibe he was giving was grown ass toddler. At this point, you're probably like, girl, what the fuck? Parker, you're fucking insane. What are you doing? I know they're gonna go home after this and break up with this guy. So we finally get back to his car, and he looks across the street, and there's like a boba shop across the street. Now, I love this boba shop. It's so good. But like, that's besides the point. So he looks at me, and he's like, hey, before we go back home, do you want to go get some boba or something? And I'm like, why not? What else can possibly go wrong? I think boba could save this date. So we go across the street, and we get boba. And I was still starving at this point, which is another reason why I agreed to go get boba. We go into the boba shop, and I tell him like what I want, and he's like, okay, so it'll be $9. Like, yeah, that's what all the bobas here cost. He's like, didn't we just go over this 10 minutes ago? I did not bring my wallet, and he's asking me to pay for my boba. This dude must have short-term memory loss, because what? So I have to look at him again and be like, I did not bring my wallet. So he kind of like rolls his eyes, and then he like reluctantly buys both of our bobas. Anyways, instead of eating in the car or like inside of the like boba shop, he walks outside, and the car is over here, the parking garage is over here, and he walks out the door and goes that way, and I'm like, what is going on? It is like 10 degrees outside, if even that, and he's walking the opposite way of the car, out of the restaurant, speed walking, like he's like trying to like lose me. Like, what is going on? But he ends up going to this park across from the library where we live, and I'm trying to like catch up to him. I'm like hinting that, like, you know, I'm cold, my feet hurt, blah blah blah, and he's just like bundled up in like 3 different jackets, and like, oh, by the way, he told me to like dress up for the date, and he was not dressed up at all for the date. I forgot to mention that. But he was like bundled up in like 3 different jackets, like nice pants, like winter boots, while I'm over here freezing my ass off and like kind of like hinting that like I'm cold. And he just like does not give a fuck. He's just ignoring me completely. We finally finish our boba at the park. I'm freezing, my balls off, like I'm cold. And then we start walking back, and he mentions like, hey, I'm still hungry. You're what? You're what? So there's this like mom and pop diner nearby that everybody in the area knows about. Like their food is the bomb. Like it's the shit. So we decide to stop by there. He does not ask me if I want anything. I do not want to go through the entire I didn't bring my wallet. So I did not ask for anything. He did not ask me if I wanted anything. He orders a sandwich, and I'm pretty sure it's like nothing else but turkey, bread, and like a shit ton of mustard. Like he asked for like extra mustard. And I'm not joking when I say this thing was like dripping with mustard. Like I'm not over exaggerating. This thing was literally dripping with mustard. And this dude devours the sandwich in less than like a few minutes, and he's like complaining the entire walk back to his car that his stomach is hurting, and I'm just kind of like freezing. Like I'm freezing, and I'm just kind of like walking behind him trying to like catch up, and then he's like, oh my goodness, I have like such bad heartburn right now, like I feel like shit, like I'm going to puke. And then like just complaining about like how much pain he's in, and like how like why did you let me get the sandwich? You know I have heartburn and like bad and really bad indigestion. I'm like, first of all, I did not know that. We've been dating for like a month. I do not know you that well. And instead of driving me home, he drove me to his house, which was further away from my house. He could have dropped me off at my house and drove to his house, but no. He drove me back to his house, and then ran straight to the bathroom, locked himself in there, and then I had to call my nana to like come pick me up because like he kept telling me that you need to leave. Worst date ever. Anyways, so I ended up dating him for like another 5 months after that.